At the age of 93, Angie Dickinson finally discusses Robert Redford. On September 30th, 1931, Angie Dickinson was born in Cullum, North Dakota. Angeline Brown was her full name. She rose from poverty in a small Midwest town to become one of Hollywood's most attractive and adaptable leading ladies. She wasn't well known when she was younger. She was the daughter of German parents Frederica and Leo Henry Brown. Growing up in the midst of the Great Depression taught Angie to be tenacious and hardworking. Her lengthy and prosperous career would later be defined by these qualities. She and her family moved to Burbank, California, where she attended Immaculate Heart College and later Glendale College. She stood out due to her knowledge, charisma, and beauty. Her first aspirations were to work behind the scenes or as a writer, but destiny brought her to the theater industry. She almost became an actress by accident when she participated in a beauty pageant in the early 1950s and attracted the attention of casting directors. Her stunning appearance, smoky voice, and captivating on-screen persona helped her land modest roles in TV series and films very rapidly. Angie put in a lot of effort in her early years and appeared in many well-known TV series such as westerns and anthologies. By the mid-1950s, she was working with some of Hollywood's top performers, which gave her confidence and expertise. Her major break came in the 1959 western classic Rio Bravo. Directed by Howard Hawks, she co-starred with Ricky Nelson, Dean Martin, and John Wayne. When Angie portrayed Feathers, a rough yet kind bartender, she rose to fame. Her ability to compete with some of the biggest male performers of the era was demonstrated in this role. In the 1960s, Angie Dickinson was one of Hollywood's most sought-after stars. Her ability to flip between different kinds of movies came effortlessly to her. She appeared in thrillers, glamorous romances, crime plays, and westerns. Because she was able to combine elegance with emotional transparency, people believed her performances had a lot of depth. One of her most well-known parts was in Ocean's 11, 1960, with Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack. She has starred in several well-known dramas and thrillers, demonstrating her ability to add strength and refinement to the film. In addition to being a movie star, Angie was a Hollywood fashion icon. Her status as a fashion icon and star was solidified when she appeared on magazine covers and at red carpet events. In the 1960s and 1970s, Dickinson was at the height of her abilities. She collaborated with some of the biggest actors of the era and appeared in numerous films and television series. Her roles in films like Ocean's 11, 1960, starring Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack, introduced her to a new audience and established her as a gorgeous woman who could compete with Hollywood's elite. She also played significant roles in Big Bad Mama, 1974, Point Blank, 1967, and The Killers, 1964. She displayed a bold and daring side in these films by not being scared to play parts that were out of the ordinary for women in films at the time. Her versatility allowed her to effortlessly transition between comedies, crime plays, and westerns, while maintaining her distinct on-screen persona. When she portrayed the original Sergeant Susan G. Pepper Anderson on the popular television series Policewoman, which aired from 1974 to 1978, she rose to international fame in the 1970s. Because it placed a woman in a role often portrayed by men in police plays, this section was revolutionary at the time. Angie's portrayal of Pepper struck a chord with viewers because she was simultaneously bold and intelligent, attractive and tough. In addition to receiving positive reviews, the show helped pave the path for future female-led television programs. Dickinson's performance earned her a Golden Globe nomination and a win. She was admired and revered by many women for her strength and self-reliance. Angie continued to work consistently in films and television series following Policewoman, demonstrating how long she could stay in a field that typically favored younger actors. She played a lonely housewife in Brian De Palma's well-reviewed film, Dressed to Kill, 1980, showcasing her talent for drama and making complex characters look vulnerable. She continued to perform in films and television shows throughout the 1980s and 1990s, frequently taking on challenging roles that demonstrated her development as an actress and a person. Similar to her professional life, Angie Dickinson's home life was filled with both triumphs and failures that shaped her into the remarkable person she is today. 1952 saw her first marriage to Gene Dickinson. Because of his speed, strength, and discipline, qualities that epitomized the 1950s all-American ideal, Gene was a well-known and renowned college football player at the time. In the end, Gene quit his career as an athlete to pursue a career in electronics, which was rapidly expanding in the United States following World War II. Although they had previously broken up in 1956, the couple remained legally married until 1960. Although their relationship had its share of issues, Angelina valued their companionship as she adapted to life in Hollywood. It's interesting that even after their divorce, she chose to retain his last name, Dickinson. This was the moniker she would eventually use for her profession and to gain international recognition. In addition to maintaining her professional identity, this decision helped her stand out in Hollywood, where maintaining a well-known name may significantly impact a job's longevity. Angie Dickinson established close acquaintances with many significant individuals over her years as Jean Dickinson's wife. There were John Kenneth Galbraith, a famous economist, and Catherine, his wife. Because the Galbraiths were a member of a group of intelligent and courteous individuals, Angie was able to witness a side of life that was extremely different from Hollywood. She was able to have stimulating conversations on politics, international economics, and culture as a result of their friendship, which expanded her horizons and introduced her to a number of intelligent and influential people. John Kenneth Galbraith's appointment as U.S. While serving as President John F. Kennedy's ambassador to India, Angie visited the Galbraiths. Galbraith was so influenced by these journeys and the time she spent traveling with them while they were stationed in India that she included them in her autobiographies, A Life in Our Times and Ambassador's Journal. These allusions in his writings demonstrate not only their close friendship, but also Angie's significance in the lives of prominent figures outside of the entertainment industry. A new chapter in her personal life began in 1965, when she wed the well-known singer and composer Burt Bacharach. Bacharach was already well known in the music industry for his exquisite melodies and revolutionary contributions to pop music. They were both well known in Hollywood and talented musicians, making them one of the most attractive couples of the era. They were married for 16 years, which is a long period by Hollywood standards, but it wasn't always simple. They spent some time apart in the latter years of their relationship, while each pursued new relationships. They remained close during this period and eventually reconciled for a while. This demonstrated how difficult it is for two ambitious and talented individuals to manage their personal lives while working in high-profile positions. On July 12, 1966, they welcomed their lone child, a girl called Nikki. Their marriage underwent a sea change at this time. Since Nikki was diagnosed with autism during a time when it was less recognized and supported than it is today, she faced numerous challenges from an early age. Angie and Burt sacrificed their careers and lives to provide Nikki with the care and love she required. Despite their best efforts, Nikki had serious issues that would affect her for the rest of her life. On January 4, 2007, at the age of 40, she tragically took her own life. Angie was forever altered because she had always stood up for her daughter and fought hard to provide her the best life possible despite many challenges, and her parents were saddened by her passing. The life of Burt Bacharach was lengthy and full of interesting events. After his marriage to Angie ended, he continued to write music, perform it, and influence the music industry for many years. He ended a life of music that had impacted many people when he died in 2023, at the age of 94. Some of the most significant aspects of Angie Dickinson's life have been her marriages to Jean Dickinson and Burt Bacharach, as well as her role as Nikki's mother. There were chapters on friendship, love, grief, fortitude, and how she handled both private and public issues with poise. Over the course of nearly a century, Angie Dickinson, now 93, has witnessed both the best and the worst of Hollywood. And after decades of keeping her sentiments about Robert Redford to herself, she finally spoke about him after his passing. In addition to being a well-known actor and filmmaker, Robert Redford founded the Sundance Film Festival. On September 16, 2025, he passed away quietly while sleeping at home in Sundance, Utah. He was 89. People in the entertainment industry were shocked by the news, which made them reflect on his incredible career and the impact he left on generations of admirers. However, the loss was particularly personal to Angie Dickinson in a way that few people could comprehend. She and Redford had met numerous times over the years, first as colleagues in the same company, and then as friends who respected and looked up to one another. Dickinson took a long time to respond when asked her thoughts on Redford's passing. Although steady, her voice was laden with emotion. "Robert was one of those rare men in Hollywood," she said. "He had character, which isn't often easy to find in this town, but he was also incredibly attractive, as everyone could see. He always stuck to his own rules, and he never let the studios or the press change who he was. Redford stood out from many of their friends because of his independence and refusal to fit in, which was significant to Dickinson, who had struggled for important roles in a field where women were frequently restricted to clichés. She described how they first crossed paths in the 1960s, when they were both gaining notoriety. "I remember seeing him when he was still this young, almost shy actor," stated the actor. "He wasn't the Robert Redford that everyone comes to know tomorrow. But even then, he had that spark. You sensed it when he entered a room. You were aware that he would have a significant event." Dickinson was already receiving recognition at the time for her roles in films and television shows, so Redford's modesty was a welcome contrast. Even while he was aware of the attention his charm and good looks brought him, she made it plain that he never displayed arrogance. Dickinson was not afraid to discuss the challenges that women in Hollywood confront, alongside men like Redford. "I'll be honest," she stated, "it got Angie-oing sometimes. Women didn't have the same opportunities as Robert back then. Whether he played a tough, romantic, or political character, he was regarded with seriousness. For women, things were different, and we had to put in more effort to be recognized. However, Robert did show respect to the women he worked with. He never considered us to be props." Yes, exactly. It meant a great deal. She also spoke well of Redford's non-actor endeavors, particularly those related to environmental issues and the Sundance Institute. Robert did more than just make movies. Making the world a little better was his aim. She continued, "Sundance gave a lot of young filmmakers a chance when the big studios wouldn't even step foot in their door. His influence was equal to that of any film he starred in because he helped people improve." Following a little silence, she murmured softly, "That vision, that generosity, is something I'll always admire." Dickinson delivered one of her signature half-smiles when asked if she and Redford had ever been more than friends. Laughing, she remarked, "People always ask that. I loved Robert because he was the type of man that women adored. However, the reality is that we never met. We respected one another. Although we enjoyed each other's company, it was never that. And that might have contributed to the longevity of our connection. Nothing negative ever happened between us." Dickinson concurred, however, that Redford had a certain allure that persisted throughout his life. "He had that combination of boyishness and strength that was irresistible," she said. "Even as he grew older and his face became wrinkled, it remained in his eyes. You don't often find someone who can make you feel isolated." Dickinson fell silent as soon as she mentioned his passing. She spoke softly yet firmly. "Though I am saddened by his passing, I find solace in the knowledge that Dad passed away quietly in the house he constructed in Sundance. I think he would have preferred it that way, and it was his safe haven. I will miss him very much, but I'll also carry the lessons of his life with me," she added. "That you may be decent and great, private and well-known, and pursue your goals without losing sight of your roots." For Angie Dickinson, Robert Redford was more than simply a Hollywood celebrity. As a friend and someone who embodied the honesty she had always admired, she looked up to him. She reflected on all the memories and significant occasions in her life, before concluding her speech at the age of 93 with a last reflection. "Robert was authentic. They don't like him anymore.